we've generally talked about the assignment as a whole and the annotated bibliography, the next assignment to discuss is the mini research paper, and that's due October 18th. So taking the 5 references that you used for the annotated bibliography, you will then complete your mini research paper. And in addition to these 5 references, you're welcome to use the textbook as well. And you might want to use a textbook because for your mini research paper, what I want you to do is try to answer that research question that you had. So think about the main ideas and the main themes. I want you to come up with at least 2 main themes or ideas that are coming from the research articles. So if you have your 5 research articles, you should be able to come up with at least 2 broad ideas that are stemming from those articles about this research topic. So kind of like answers to your research questions that are coming from the research. So you're going to be doing your annotated bibliography and using those sources. So the mini research paper, you should introduce the topic, discuss the theoretical framework that underlies the topic, and this is where you might want to use your textbook. So what theory is really driving your question and might be driving the answers to your question. So you're going to introduce that theory. You're also going to introduce your 2 main ideas or your 2 main conclusions that you're drawing from the research. So you have your question, you do your research, and what are the conclusions? What are the main ideas that are coming out, that are salient in what you're reading? And then as part of your research paper, what you want to do is really provide the evidence for those main ideas using your sources. And finally, you're going to conclude with implications for both the research community as well as your own professional community. So based on this research, what does that tell us? What should we be doing? Or what are the next steps? Or how can we apply this? And even though the application piece is much more for the tool, I want you to include a little bit here of the application so that you can start thinking about it. And so it's going to be a minimum of 4 full pages in length, plus the references. So the references don't count in the page length. 4 pages really is not a lot. So once you start writing, especially since you're going to be talking a little bit about the theory and then about your 2 main ideas and providing implications. You're welcome to go over 4 pages, but 4 pages is the minimum. And again, references are extra. And you want to make sure you include a reference list, APA style, in your paper. So you're going to obviously get your topic approved by me. You're going to do your annotated bibliography. And then you want to think about what your main ideas or conclusions that you're drawing from the literature are and how they're aligned with the topic or the research question. And then you're going to provide evidence for that as well as cite your main ideas. So make sure you're providing citations throughout. So last name and author in parentheses after a main idea. If you're going to quote directly from the articles, you need to make sure you have quotation marks and include page numbers. I would ask not that you don't quote so much so that the whole paper looks like a big quote from other articles, but instead try to paraphrase as much as possible. Make sure you're including a theory, at least one theory or psychological concept from the course. You can look through your textbook to come up with that. Or you can ask me. I'm happy to walk you through that. And again, some concrete implications for evidence-based information for both researchers and the professional community. So you might want to think about what your objectives are going to be for your presentation and your tool, and those can come in here as implications. So again, this is a grading rubric. So your topic. So the topic makes sense. It's been approved. It focuses on educational psychology. Your main ideas, you have 2 well thought out main ideas that are presented. They come from proper sources, there's citations for them, and they're positioned within the context of the topic. There's a theory that's prevalent in ed psych that was chosen, it's being described, and it supports those main ideas, learning objectives for the future. And then there's implications. So you have your implications, and there's strong alignment between these implications and the ideas that are being presented. And finally, that the format conforms to APA. It's double-spaced. It's 4 pages in length at a minimum, and there's APA-style citations and references that are included. So this is a little bit different than what I've had people do in the past in terms of the research paper, but I'll show you the research paper that was done by the person that did the annotated bibliography that we looked at in the previous video. So again, it's about differentiated instruction, and so what she's done is she's gone ahead and bolded her main conclusions, her main ideas. So she starts with a brief introduction and like a little bit of a longer introduction. So elementary students have various skill sets that need to be addressed by their instructor. According to Cox, today's classrooms usually contain students with a wide range of abilities and varied experiential backgrounds. In order to ensure that all learners' needs are met, teachers must utilize differentiated instruction when creating and implementing lesson plans. So that's one of her main ideas or main conclusions from her research, is that differentiated instruction needs to be used in creating and implementing the lesson plan so that it's occurring throughout your class. So one way of implementing it into the class is to make sure that it's already laid out in your lesson plans. And she goes on to provide evidence for that. And then goes on to the next idea, which is differentiated instruction is critical to the overall success of the student's academic progress and skill set, but it's challenging for instructors to find the time to create and manipulate instructional methods for different academic levels. So teachers really need additional professional development training and more planning time in order to be able to do this. And so that's her other conclusion, is that more professional development is really needed if teachers are going to be expected to do this, and that's what the findings from her studies that she found really point to. And so she talks a little bit, provides a little bit of the evidence for that. There's a little bit too much direct quoting here. I would prefer paraphrasing as much as possible. So she talks a little bit more about that. And then she goes on to talk a little bit about the different theories that might be involved. So she mentions Vygotsky and she mentions Piaget in terms of how they play a role in this. And again, this assignment was a little bit different, so there's less on the theory and then nothing on implications, because I had not asked my students to do that in the past, but I think it's important. So you would conclude with a paragraph talking about implications, as well as expand a little bit more on the theoretical aspect of it. So that's the mini research paper that you need to do. And again, it's due in October, so you have a little bit of time to get that done, and it's due October 18th. And again, if you have questions about that, or if you want to submit a draft early for me to review, I'm happy to do that and provide you with some feedback on it. So if you can get me that draft a minimum of a week in advance, I'm happy to provide you with some feedback. So it needs to be in my hands a week prior to October 18th in order for me to be able to give you some feedback and some advice. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.